Today I am going to share with you my must-have grow list for my cut flowers for 2026. Now this list may look rather long to you, but in truth it's a lot shorter than it normally is. I'm going to talk about each one of the plants, a little bit about their growth habits, what makes them a good cut flower, and then I will show you pictures. Most of them will probably be from years prior when I've grown them, like clippets of bouquets and things like that. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about why this is my list this year and why it's rather simple. But first, let's start with some flowers on the list. Now, I like to store my seeds. This is a photo box. I will have a link in the description down below if you are interested in this. Let me open it and I will show you. So inside are a bunch of little caddies like this. And to be exact, there's 18. So there's 18 of these, and they have little tabs and you open them up and then you have a place to store all of your seeds. Now I have all of mine, as you can see, I have them alphabetical. But one of the first flowers that we are going to grow this year is an aster. Now these I love because they're just beautiful. They almost look, if you can see this on the seed packet, they almost look like a peony or a really ruffly sea anemone. But I love them and they make really good cut flowers. They have a good vase life. I do have a lot of different colors available in these. The one thing that I will say that they kind of tend to bloom a lot all at once. And so there will be a lot of flowers on there that you may not be able to use and you'll have to deadhead them regularly. And then the subsequent blooms that come out sometimes are not as long of a stem. So depending on what you're doing, if you're making vase arrangements or if you're doing just handheld bouquets, will depend on what you need the stem length for. But they are gorgeous and they come in tons of different varieties and colors. Next on my list is basil. Now, believe it or not, if you have not grown cut flowers before, basil is a good greenery to use. The only caveat to this is they do not like to be put in a cooler. Now, I use cinnamon basils, amaretto basil. There's several different ones that you can use, and as long as you don't mind the scent of basil, they make excellent greenery. Then Bee's Friend. Now Bee's Friend seeds prolifically and it is more of a spring flower. It has this beautiful purple and it has trendles almost like a fern frond, I guess they're called. That's kind of what it reminds me of, but you can see here in the picture just how beautiful they are. Now, I'm not going in particular alphabetical order I'm going to try, but Ageratum, this is one that I use a lot, and the thing that is pretty about this is you can see it's blue, and there aren't a whole lot of true blue flowers to use for cut flowers. And this one, the more you cut it back at the base, the more it branches out and gives you nice long stems. They have a really good vase life. Next is Gomphrena. My daughter likes to call these fuzz balls because they're just these little ball flowers and they're very cute, very happy. They add a lot of whimsy to my cut flowers. This is a staple for me. It is like a filler, kind of like you would with baby's breath. I love Gomphrena as a filler flower, and they have several colors available: pinks, whites, purples, even peaches. Dusty Miller. Now I do grow both types. I grow the regular type that you can find at garden centers, and then I also have a broader leafed variety that is called New Look, and it has it's wide and the stems don't grow as long, so I like to use those kind of at the base and kind of make a rim of it around the outside of a bouquet, and I'll show you a little picture of that. And you can see how on this one I kind of have it around the base and then I have some coming out there. Now Coleus is a shade plant, but it does make a great cut flower, but you have to be sure that you get the tall variety of Coleus. It's kind of a must-have, and I just love all the fun, colorful plays that are available in the leaves. Now Celosia is another plant that has so many different varieties, and I have grown multiple, and I kind of have stuck to the plume varieties, the Chief Fire Red, which is like the little brain head coxcomb look. I do grow some others, but I do find that the plumes really add a lot more whimsy to my bouquets, so I really like that. And one other thing about Celosia that I really love is that it dries beautiful. And aside from doing cut flowers, I do tons of dried flowers, and I was selling cut flowers as well as dried flowers to a local supermarket. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Julie, and I have a small flower and veg farm where I grow cut flowers, and I also dry those, and I grow veg, and that's what I sell for my business. And I do a lot of crafting with the flowers and things like that. And I was telling you in the beginning, I would tell you a little bit why my list is so simple this year. The reason being is about 3 years ago, my oldest daughter, at the time she was just a few days shy of being 28, she was diagnosed with a very aggressive stage 3 breast cancer. And at the time she lived out of state, and she had a baby 8.5 months prior and had complications at the end of that. We're thinking it was kind of due to the cancer presenting itself, but it wasn't really known then. So I had to travel out of state to help with their animals. And then when I left, I had so many seedlings started in my grow room. And when I came back, despite my husband and daughter's best efforts, they were mostly all dead. And I tried to start some over again, but it was too late for some of the varieties. And then it was basically 3 weeks later, she had delivered the baby. I took off again, came back, most of those were gone as well. So the following year, like I said, when the baby was about 8.5, almost 9 months old, she found out that she had the cancer, and I dropped everything. So I dropped my account that I had at the grocery store for selling the dried and the fresh flowers, and I had to stop selling produce and flowers like in subscriptions. So people would pay ahead of time, and then they would get flowers and or veg or a combination of both delivered to them every week or every 2 weeks. So I let all of that go and basically didn't do much of anything for 2 years. Yeah, about 2 solid years. She did end up transferring here, and they lived with us for a while, but she recently, last year, just had her last surgery. It was a 15-hour one, and it looks like everything is good. So we're thanking the Lord and keeping our fingers crossed on that. But I am starting over to get my business back up and running now that they are here and she's doing good. And so that is why my list is very basic. I don't want to overwhelm myself, and it's very easy for me to look in seed catalogs and go, ooh, oh, I have to have that. That's so pretty. Oh my gosh, that would be beautiful in bouquets. And that happens because, they always come out with new varieties every year, and I have to be careful. I will try new varieties, but I try to limit myself to 1 or 2, because if I do too many, it really becomes a challenge to keep everything dialed in. So I will try 1 or 2 one year, see how they perform, and then maybe people in my flower farming groups have tried the other varieties that I was thinking about but didn't get that year, and then I can read their comments and feedbacks in our groups and see what they thought about those flowers, and vice versa. I can give my comments on the ones I grew, and that just kind of helps us all to know which ones really are good performers and worth it, and especially in our area. So let's get back to the list. So lavender, now I do have lavender planted. It doesn't like its feet wet, and where I had it planted, the very tail end of the road, the water, we live on a downslope of a hill, and that's kind of where the water flowed through. So you can imagine they got wet feet, and I did lose quite a few. So I will be replanting a few plants this year from seed and just kind of restocking my flowers on that. Marigolds, now these are not your little pot marigolds that live in little containers. These are actually tall marigolds, and they get between 3 and 4 feet tall. And with these, you have to be aggressive and cut them way back when you're cutting a stem to get a long stem. And you'll have side shoots that you'll have to cut off. That's just all part of the cut flower process. But what that does is it stimulates new growth to come out from where you cut it low, and it will give you just consistently nice long stems to use for cut flowers. Now, some of those side stems, if they are blooming but they are shorter, you can keep them in your bouquets, or you can cut those off and use them if you also make little arrangements in vases, which I was doing for the flower or for the grocery store as well. Now, snapdragons, I love these. I have a love-hate relationship with them because they get rust very easily, but kind of as the summer goes on, if you don't do succession planting and plant more as the season goes along, this is what happens, and it's devastating, and it can spread and it can live on the soil. So I try to keep it out of my garden, but like I say, you have the best intentions at the beginning of the year, and sometimes it just gets away from you, and you go out there and you're like, oh crap, This is not looking good, and that's what happened to me last year. I was trying to get back into it last year, but like I say, we were still finishing my daughter's surgery, and she had a long recovery, and she was moving again, and so I had a few things slip away from me, but we're getting there. Now, sunflowers, I tend to use ProCut, which means it is one seed produces one stem with one beautiful bloom. And the closer you plant them together, the smaller the heads get. And I tend to like, probably this size when it comes to sunflower heads in bouquets. Now, if you're just doing straight bunches of sunflowers, a little bit bigger, some people absolutely love that. And I have a container that I can just put one sunflower in each little vase on this little stand, and it absolutely just looks stunning. Sunflowerselection.com really has a lot of good sunflowers to look at. They do have multi-branching ones, but the ProCuts don't have the pollen in the center. They don't shed on the table any pollen, and that's kind of what we like as a cut flower grower, is to not stain our customers' counters or tablecloths or anything else like that with the pollen from the flowers. Now, stock, this, oh my goodness, if you have never grown stock before, it smells so amazing. And I do have stock going already. I started at the beginning of January. It's a cool flower, which means it likes the cooler temperatures. So I will be planting this out probably in March. I will get it up to a decent size. It's going to go down into the greenhouse, which is unheated. I'm building a little greenhouse within the greenhouse, and I'll probably show that on an upcoming video, but they will stay down there for a little extra protection before they are ready to be planted out in the yard. But they have the most glorious, beautiful colors, as you can see right here, and they smell phenomenal. If you don't actually cut these 4-cut flowers, I have had some last all summer long. I love them so much, but they're kind of a one stem to one flower, and then they're done. So if you cut them, you won't get any side branching coming back out. So just know that. Now, straw flowers, I absolutely love these, and they have so many different colors and varieties and sizes, and they add fun and whimsy to the bouquets, and they also dry beautifully. So they're a very versatile flower. I use them a lot in crafting when I do the drieds. So this picture here, you can see just some of the colors that I grow. I am trying to get some apricot ones this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to, because I'm trying to stick, because I'm starting over and I honestly haven't made any money in the last 3 years on my flower and veg farm. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of money, if you know what I mean. And I have a lot of seeds from when I was growing very high scale, and these are older seeds, yes they are, but I store them in my daylight basement, which stays very cool all year round. They are protected from moisture, and I still have fabulous germination rates out of these. I have tested a few of them. The stock that I planted, I did have spotty germination, but I planted a few more on those. So we're just sticking with what we got this year, and we're gonna try and make a little money to get a little bit ahead so that we can buy a couple new varieties for next year. So Status, this is another one that I really love. I kind of just tend to stick to the basic Status, purples, pinks, whites. I also love the apricot. That was one that I was going to actually buy this year, but almost everybody that had them was already sold out, and I kind of got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm getting back on my feet again. We don't need to stress about it, so nobody's probably going to care that I don't have apricot Status in my bouquets. So zinnias, oh, these are like the staple of all staples, 4-cut flower bouquets, and I love the Queen Lime series and also the Oklahoma series. They're just beautiful. I don't know how else to explain it. You can see from this picture just the color variations and how pretty they are. Now, for greens and fillers, Bupleurum is a really good choice. Now, this is one that you can seed in the fall, and then they start growing in the spring, and that's probably one of the first fillers you'll get in the spring. And they're very prolific, and if you let them self-seed, you will have them coming up for years. But this one, I didn't get any planted in the fall. I'm just going to try to go and plant some down in the greenhouse where the temperatures are still cold at night, because they like that cold stratification over the winter. And you also have to succession plant these. So once you cut them, they kind of come ready most of the whole plant comes ready at the same time. You cut it all down and then it's done. It doesn't flush out and give you any more stems. So, or if you do, they're just these little itty bitty microscopic things. So that is another one that if you want to have continuous use of this as a filler flower, you have to succession plant. Now Persian cress, same thing. It is kind of, it comes all at once and then it's done, but you can see they dry beautiful too. If you get them more in the beigey tone, not my favorite, but you actually can spray paint these silver, gold, any color really, and use them in dried flower arrangements, and they really make a nice statement in the piece. Now Atroplex, another filler, and it is beautiful. Frosted explosion grass, you can see it here in this bouquet that I did. It's very whimsical, very airy, very playful. It is another one of those where it can get away from you very quickly, and I find that for the scale that I grow on, a few plants go a long way. And it also self-seeds and is pretty prolific, so if you cut off the spent blooms and put them in a pile and forget to pick them up, they will continue to develop their seeds, and the seeds will spill on the ground, and the next year you will have plants coming up right there, depending on your climate. But I'm in zone 8B and I have them coming up where I have done that before. I admit it. Everything, you know, best, like I say, best intentions, and it gets away from you. Bunny tail grass, I just love this stuff. It is so fun and so whimsical, and I am going to put up this picture here. This is a little birthday cake that I made, and you can see I used the bunny tails as candles, and I will probably this year, if you guys are interested, let me know down in the comments. If you want me to show you how I make the birthday cake, we can do a video on that. That would probably be kind of fun, huh? Now goldenrod, this is a perennial, and I don't have to plant any new this year. It also will self-seed pretty prolifically for you. Some people have it growing in ditches. Here in Oregon, not so much. It's something that you kind of intentionally plant, but if you let it go to seed, you can have baby plants coming up in your walkways, in your driveway, you name it. But it is beautiful in bouquets, even before the yellow flowers open. Then when the yellow flowers open, they're gorgeous. And they're also medicinal. I did a video on goldenrod and the medicinal uses of that. I'll try to remember to link that down in the description below if you're interested. Jewels of Opar, this is another whimsical plant. You can see it has little tiny red balls on it, and very airy, very playful. But it too, if you don't cut it at the right stage, can be pretty finicky, and it wants to be limpy, and you have to kind of condition it right after you cut it as well. So just know that it's beautiful, but it can be finicky. And millet, it is another form of a filler for greenery that I like to use. And it kind of sounds like I'm giving a lot of greenery on here, and I do also have things that are perennials that I use for greenery. But I am telling you, once you start making bouquets, you realize how fast it goes. It goes away very quick. Now wormwood, it sounds horrible, but it is a perennial woody plant, and it has a slight scent to it if you rub it. I don't find it horrible. Some people may not like it, but it also adds nice interest and depth and dimension into bouquets. And I'm also going to be growing sweet peas this year, and they're kind of one of those things where you can succession plant those as well. You can see here in the picture just how beautiful they are. Their vase life is not as long as my standard ones that have sunflowers and zinnias and celosia in them. Those can go up to 2 weeks. I've had customers that just rave about how long the bouquets last. Sweet peas, I always say 5 days, 7 days, if you're lucky. Kind of depends on how cool the house is. But they smell so amazing, and they're so beautiful that I can't not grow them. So those are ones that I'm going to start from seed as well. Now, if you are not subscribed and you love this type of content, you love gardening, flowers, veggies, all that kind of stuff. I also can and preserve, but I also do crafting videos. Just so you know, if you're new here, you will see gardening videos and you'll see some crafting videos because I love it all. And I didn't want to create 2 different channels. Now, I will in the coming months, as things get warmer and things start to come up, like all my perennials start to come out, I'll take you on tours. I'll share with you what those are and if I use them for cut flowers or not, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing. I just take you along with me on the process of everything I do, from preparing the soilless mix, starting seeds, throughout the whole growth process. Everything I do, from transplanting seedlings up and beyond. So that's just what I do here. I grow flowers, I grow veg, and I craft. Not all I do. I do a lot more than that, but you know, that's just the fun stuff that I get to do and share with you. So that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you found this list helpful. I appreciate hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.